Hi, it's Katrina. What if the universe has already scheduled Earth's destruction and we just haven't checked the calendar yet? From deep space threats hurtling towards us at unimaginable speeds to disasters brewing beneath our feet, Earth faces unpredictable dangers that will happen eventually. Some of them we know are coming. It's just a matter of when. Others, they are rare, bizarre, and nearly impossible to prepare for, but still disturbingly possible. In this video, we are diving into the most terrifying ways that nature and the cosmos could erase our planet. So hold on for the ride. Yellowstone's super deadly volcano. The world's most peaceful-looking national park is actually sitting on top of a ticking time bomb. Yellowstone National Park is a stunning slice of the American wilderness, famous for geysers like Old Faithful, wild animals, and hiking trails that stretch for miles. But beneath all that natural beauty lies something far more powerful and dangerous. Deep under the forests and hot springs is one of the largest active volcanic systems in the world, the Yellowstone supervolcano. There is a lot going on underground. Yellowstone National Park rumbles a lot since it is on top of a supervolcano and it's surrounded by all kinds of geothermal activity. The area is known for its high seismic activity, with an average of 1,500 to 2,500 earthquakes per year. That is a lot. And every now and then, news will break out that there is movement happening in Yellowstone, and to be careful. You can hear the noise and feel the tremble sometimes, especially if you are near an area with hot springs and geysers. So what exactly is a supervolcano, and should we be worried? The short answer is yes. Yes, we should. If it erupted today, it would be catastrophic. Let's go back for a second. Way back. Yellowstone's volcanic story begins over 2 million years ago, when it experienced the first of 3 massive eruptions. The biggest, known as the Huckleberry Ridge eruption, happened 2.1 million years ago. It blasted out an unbelievable 588 cubic miles of volcanic material. To put that into perspective, that's enough ash and rock to bury the entire state of Texas under 5 feet of debris. Later came 2 more eruptions, and they were huge. The Mesa Falls eruption around 1.3 million years ago, and the most recent one, the Lava Creek eruption, about 631,000 years ago. That last one created the huge caldera, the giant crater that now lies beneath the park. Fast forward to today, and pressure from rising magma would eventually break through the surface, sending ash, rock, and gases shooting into the sky. It's estimated that around 90,000 people could die instantly, and that ash could spread over 1,000 miles, covering parts of the United States in a layer 10 feet deep. Roads would be blocked, airports shut down, emergency crews probably stuck outside the blast zone. And that's not even the scariest part. The eruption could send sulfuric gases into the atmosphere, creating a thick haze that blocks the sunlight, a phenomenon known as volcanic winter. The world would go dark. This happened once before in 535 AD, when a supervolcano erupted, creating global chaos. Temperatures dropped, crops failed, and famine spread. Now, I know what you're wondering. Could that happen again? Could Yellowstone destroy humanity? Well, it could. I mean, we can't really predict catastrophes that well, but the good news is it is not very likely. Yet. Experts, like those at the U.S. Geological Survey, say the chance of Yellowstone erupting in any given year is just 0.00014%. That is 3 zeros. In fact, the magma chamber beneath the park is only 5 to 15% molten, which means that there is likely not enough lava to fuel a massive eruption anytime soon. What would you do if you heard on the news that Yellowstone's supervolcano was waking up? Let me know in the comments. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a black hole. Picture this. You're outside sipping your favorite drink. It's a nice summer night. You're gazing at the stars when suddenly, wait, is that a shimmer in the sky? A flicker of nothing? Uh-oh, it's a black hole. And if it's heading this way, Earth might be in for the universe's worst game of dodgeball. But how scared should we really be? Are black holes lurking out there like interstellar sharks waiting to eat our planet for lunch? Let's take a journey through space and find out. In our Milky Way galaxy, there are about 400 billion stars. That's already a mind-bending number. But what you don't know is that for every 800 of those stars, one has likely collapsed into a black hole. That means there could be up to 1 billion black holes roaming around our galaxy like cosmic ninjas. But despite the scary number, space is huge. So big, you can't even fathom it. Seriously, if stars were basketballs, the distance between them would be miles apart. Earth orbits the sun from about 93 million miles away. Even the icy Kuiper belt beyond Neptune is still peanuts compared to the scale of the galaxy. Our nearest neighboring star, Proxima Centauri, is over 4.2 light-years away. That's about 25 trillion miles. So, even if black holes are cruising around out there, it's like finding a single dust mote in a football stadium. So sure, maybe don't panic yet, but what if one hits us? Let's not sugarcoat it. If a black hole actually hit the Earth, it would be bad, like nobody left to write about it bad. The moment it got close, its gravity would start tugging on Earth like a toddler pulling a tablecloth. Except the tablecloth is the crust of the Earth, and the toddler is a bottomless pit of doom. If it collided with our planet directly, it would tear through us like a wrecking ball made of space-time. Earth would be stretched into spaghetti, a real term called spaghettification. You know, fun fact, shattered into glowing particles and disappear into the void forever. On the bright side, it would happen so fast, you probably wouldn't have time to complain. Even without a direct hit, say it just passed nearby, a black hole could still cause trouble. Its gravity could yank Earth out of orbit, slingshot us into deep space, or crash us into another planet. It's basically space playing billiards with planets as balls. For a black hole to have a noticeable effect, it would need to come within about 10 astronomical units, or AU, 10 times the distance from Earth to the Sun. Not exactly right next door, but not impossible. Now here's the good news. The odds of a black hole passing that close over Earth's entire 4.5 billion year history are about 1 in 400 million. And the odds of a direct hit? Well, you're more likely to win the lottery 3 times and get struck by lightning on your birthday. So this definitely won't be happening tomorrow or anytime soon. Phew. So while the thought of a rogue black hole barreling towards Earth is certainly dramatic and thankfully incredibly unlikely, it does raise the question, where do these mysterious objects even come from? They are not evil voids that pop into existence just to mess with us. Most black holes are born when massive stars die. A star dozens of times more massive than the sun burns through its fuel, collapses, and then boom, you've got a black hole. Others can form when neutron stars crash into each other, which we've actually detected thanks to observatories like LIGO. Despite their reputation, black holes aren't malevolent. They're just incredibly dense remnants of dead stars, following the same laws of physics as everything else. They move through space just like stars do. The problem is they don't glow like stars, so they can sneak up on you if you aren't paying attention. At least we have ways to see them coming. Even though black holes are invisible, we can detect their presence. If a black hole passes in front of a star, it can warp the light from behind it, a phenomenon known as gravitational lensing. And if it pulls material from nearby gas or dust, that stuff heats up and emits X-rays, which we can detect. We also have amazing space missions like Gaia, which has been charting the positions and motions of over 1 billion stars. If something strange were warping the paths of stars nearby, we'd probably notice. So if a rogue black hole starts creeping toward us, we might get a cosmic heads up. What do you think it would be like to be spaghettified? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And now for a quick break because it's shoutout time. I want to give a big thank you to JP Howard and RS Scrum 1 for supporting this channel. Thanks so much for watching, and you all heard the man. If you have trouble sleeping, just put on an Origins Explained playlist. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Beware the Grey Goo. Some people's worst nightmare isn't a zombie apocalypse or alien invasion. It's a pile of goo. Not just any goo, but Grey Goo. It sounds like something that might be served at a potluck during the Great Depression, right? But in reality, this goo has nothing to do with food. It's a terrifying doomsday scenario dreamed up by scientists and sci-fi writers where the world ends, not with a bang, but with a quiet, relentless storm of microscopic robots. Imagine a future where humanity has mastered nanotechnology, the science of building things at the scale of atoms and molecules. This means machines so small, you would need a super-powered microscope to even see them. Sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? That's what engineer and futuristic K. Eric Drexler thought too. In his book, Engines of Creation, he proposed the idea of assemblers, tiny nanomachines that could build literally everything, molecule by molecule. Want a pizza, a new phone, a space shuttle? Just program a few assemblers and they'll whip it up for you in no time, atom by atom. But here's where it gets a little scary. Drexler also imagined what would happen if these assemblers started building more assemblers, and those built even more. You'd go from a few hundred to millions to trillions. It's like a copy machine that never stops printing, except the paper is everything on Earth. These out-of-control assemblers would begin devouring every bit of organic matter, trees, animals, humans, you name it, to make more of themselves. All life on the planet gets chewed up and spit out as self-replicating machines. The planet turns into a slushy robotic soup known as Grey Goo. But could this actually happen? Scientists aren't so sure. Nanotech expert Robert A. Freitas Jr. ran the numbers and thinks we'd notice something was wrong before the goo takes over. He believes we'd have time to stop it. Other experts argue that self-replicating nanobots would probably have strict controls built in, like digital birth control to prevent them from going rogue. And some scientists say that the entire concept of self-replicating assemblers is way beyond our current tech. We can barely build one, let alone billions that can survive in the desert, ocean, or inside your body. Still, while Grey Goo might not be around the corner, nanotechnology isn't without its dangers. On the nanoscale, even normal substances can become toxic. Something harmless at the human level might act totally different when it is atom-sized. So scientists have to handle nanomaterials with extra caution. What do you think? Should we be more careful about creating machines that can copy themselves? Could our own inventions one day get away from us? Or is Grey Goo just another ghost story for tech nerds? Tell me your thoughts down below. Catch you on the flip side. What if your compass suddenly went haywire? Your GPS stopped working properly, and migratory birds flew in all the wrong directions. Welcome to a world where Earth's magnetic field has flipped. So what would actually happen if north became south and vice versa? Let's start by diving deep, really deep. About 1,800 miles beneath your feet, Earth's outer core is a swirling sea of molten metal. This movement creates electric currents, and combined with Earth's rotation, those currents generate a magnetic field that stretches far into space. Picture it like an invisible force field, shaped like a giant bar magnet running through the planet. This field doesn't just keep your compass honest, it protects us from dangerous solar radiation. Without it, we'd be getting a sunburn in places the sun doesn't usually reach. Now here's where things get wild. Earth's magnetic field has a history of flipping. It's done so around 170 times in the last 100 million years. The most recent full reversal happened about 780,000 years ago. And there was a shorter flip about 41,000 years ago that lasted less than 1,000 years. But why does it flip? Nobody knows for sure. It's one of Earth's wild mysteries. And before you panic, it is not a dramatic overnight event. The process can take hundreds to thousands of years to complete, slowly weakening the magnetic field along the way. Speaking of weakening, scientists have been measuring the magnetic field since the 1800s. And guess what? It's losing strength, about 5% per decade, according to satellites. Some experts think this could be the early signs of a flip, possibly within the next 1,500 years. Others argue it could just be a temporary wobble. So, are we on the brink of a magnetic upheaval? If a flip does happen, would the world end? Probably not. There is no evidence that previous reversals caused mass extinctions or global disasters, but it wouldn't be a smooth ride either. A weaker field could let in more cosmic radiation, increasing cancer risks and disrupting power grids and communication systems. And what about animals like birds and whales that navigate using the magnetic field? They might get lost, like a goose flying to Florida might end up in Finland. So while a magnetic flip wouldn't send us back to the Stone Age, it would certainly cause mass confusion. If it happens, you'll need a new compass and a better sense of direction. Would you trust your smartphone to still work? Or would you learn to navigate by the stars? Too much salt. Who doesn't like salt? It makes everything taste better, but there is a fine line between just the right amount of salt and too much salt. And if things get too salty, you're going to have a bad time. What if the real threat to our future wasn't a massive asteroid or a secret AI uprising, but something hiding quietly in plain sight? Your kitchen salt shaker. Salt pollution is a sleeping giant we've been ignoring for far too long. The same stuff we sprinkle on dinner has slowly been sneaking into our rivers, lakes, soil, and even the air. According to a recent study published in Nature Reviews Earth and Environment, human activities over the last 50 years have been dumping massive amounts of salt into ecosystems that were never meant to be salted. Sujay Kaushal, a geologist behind the study, warns that this is no minor issue. Salt in the wrong places messes with everything from drinking water to farming, and it's getting worse. But how did we get here? Believe it or not, a huge part of the problem comes from something that seems totally harmless: road salt. In the United States, nearly half of all the salt used between 2013 and 2017 went to de-icing roads. Ever seen snowplows dumping crystals on highways in the winter? That salt doesn't just disappear after the snow melts. It runs off into nearby soil and streams, killing wildlife and corroding infrastructure. In fact, excess salt has even been linked to the Flint, Michigan water crisis, where corroded pipes leaked lead into the drinking water. Now get this, even though water covers 75% of Earth, only 3% is fresh water, and most of that is locked away in glaciers and snowy mountains. As global temperatures rise, these frozen water reserves are melting, threatening our long-term access to drinkable water. Add a growing tide of salt pollution, and we've got ourselves a recipe for a freshwater shortage, which we kind of need fresh water to survive, so without it, we're pretty much screwed. What do you think? Are we ready to wake up the sleeping giant and figure something out? Or keep shaking salt into our wound? World-destroying asteroid. If a giant asteroid were heading toward Earth, it wouldn't just be the plot of a Hollywood disaster flick. It would be a global emergency with potentially apocalyptic consequences. While NASA and other space agencies insist that such a catastrophe is extremely unlikely anytime soon, recent asteroid encounters and advanced simulations show that Earth is far from invincible. And there's one rock in particular that's got scientists on edge: Asteroid Bennu. It's an Empire State Building-sized menace that came uncomfortably close to Earth recently and may do so again in the future. Let's start with a worst-case scenario. Imagine NASA's radar pings alerting the world to an asteroid roughly the size of Mount Everest, set to collide with Earth in just 10 years. Governments scramble, emergency meetings are held, scientists debate how to push the space rock off course. Space agencies from around the globe unite, launching nuclear deflection missiles 1 year before impact. But the mission fails. With mere months remaining, FEMA orders mass evacuations in the projected impact zones. Hours before the strike, the world waits, terrified, as the countdown ticks to zero. Though this sounds like science fiction, some aspects are very real. NASA's planetary defense programs like NEOWISE and the Catalina Sky Survey constantly scan the skies. And in April 2024, a real asteroid hit Earth. Though it was only 3 feet wide, it was detected just 8 hours in advance. That's not exactly comforting when you consider that NASA has said we would need probably about 14 years' notice to properly respond to a world-ending asteroid. Even with a decade of warning, options are limited. The 2022 DART mission successfully nudged a harmless asteroid off its course by slamming into it at 14,000 miles per hour. It was a great test, but planetary defense officials have admitted that if an asteroid were arriving in under 5 years, that plan might not even get off the ground. That leaves us with the nuclear option. And no, not the cool slow-motion movie kind. To completely destroy a 12-mile wide asteroid, we would need the explosive power of 200 gigatons of TNT. That is 10 million Hiroshima bombs. The only spacecraft capable of delivering that payload might be NASA's Space Launch System or SpaceX's Starship, but neither has been proven in an operation like this. Now, let's talk about what happens after the rock hits, because if the asteroid gets through, it's game over in more ways than one. First comes the impact, a massive explosion triggering continent-wide earthquakes, tsunamis, and firestorms. Then, millions of tons of dust and aerosols are hurled into the sky, blocking out the sun and plunging Earth into a nuclear winter. Within hours, communication systems fail, oxygen levels drop, and a global food shortage begins. According to climate models run by researchers at the IBS Center for Climate Physics in South Korea, even a medium-sized asteroid like Bennu, about 1,600 feet wide, could cause lasting climate chaos. Using a supercomputer named Aleph, researchers simulated what would happen if such an asteroid hit Earth. The result? A sudden 39-degree Fahrenheit global drop in temperature, a 15% reduction in rainfall, and a 32% depletion in the ozone layer. Terrestrial and marine photosynthesis would drop by 20 to 30%, starving ecosystems and potentially triggering a mass extinction event. Sound familiar? It's a lot like what happened 66 million years ago when the asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs. But oddly enough, not all life forms might suffer equally. In one twist from the simulations, researchers found that ocean plankton, which are critical for marine ecosystems, could bounce back in just 6 months, thanks to the iron-rich dust from the impact. That dust, which contains nutrients like iron, could trigger massive algae blooms, possibly even benefiting marine life in the long term. So yes, while the land might become a barren wasteland, the ocean could just maybe throw a phytoplankton party. So what about Bennu? NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission collected a sample from this spooky space rock and brought it back to Earth in 2023, helping scientists study its makeup. Bennu has a 1 in 2,700 chance of hitting Earth on September 24th, 2182. That's a tiny 0.037%. But let's be honest, those odds are still enough to keep astronomers up at night. Gamma ray burst. What if I told you there exist beams of invisible light so powerful they could sterilize half the planet in seconds? If space had a doomsday weapon, gamma ray bursts would be it. These aren't the stuff of sci-fi laser guns or comic book villains. They are real, and they are terrifying. These cosmic blasts, or GRBs for short, are among the most powerful events in the universe. And if one ever pointed its deadly glare at Earth, things could get very messy very fast. Think of gamma rays as supercharged light particles. Unlike the soft glow of a nightlight or the flashlight on your phone, gamma rays are so energetic they can pass straight through concrete and through you. That makes them not just powerful, but dangerous. The most intense sources of gamma rays in the universe come from GRBs, which are born from the most violent moments in a star's life. When a massive star burns through its fuel, it collapses under its own gravity, either becoming a black hole or exploding in a supernova. In some cases, this collapse sends twin jets of plasma rocketing out from the star's poles. And if one of those jets points at Earth, well, let's just say you wouldn't need to worry about showing up to work on Monday. So, how powerful are these bursts? In a matter of seconds, a single GRB can release more energy than our sun will produce over its entire 10 billion year lifespan. Let that sink in for a moment. Seconds versus billions of years. Now, before you panic and start building a lead bunker, here's the good news. These deadly bursts are rare and very directional. You'd have to be in the direct path of the beam and within about 200 light years to get the worst of it. Thankfully, though, no GRB candidates are lurking that close to Earth, for now. Still, even a distant burst could do damage. Earth's atmosphere usually protects us from cosmic radiation, but a strong enough GRB could strip away parts of the ozone layer, exposing us to harmful ultraviolet rays. It could also change the chemistry of our atmosphere, creating toxic smog and possibly even triggering an ice age. Some scientists even think that a GRB may have helped wipe out life during the Ordovician extinction around 450 million years ago. You might be wondering, what would that kind of radiation feel like? Think of the Chernobyl disaster, only global. Gamma rays don't just burn skin, they tear apart atoms, damage DNA, and cause cancer, of course. You would need inches of lead to block them, not just your average sunscreen. The planet could be sterilized, or in other words, all life on the surface could be zapped. And get this, in 2022, Earth caught a glimpse of just how intense one of these bursts could be. Scientists nicknamed it the boat, the brightest of all time. It came from far away, and luckily, Earth wasn't directly in its sights. But it was a cosmic reminder that the universe doesn't mess around. Sure, space is beautiful, but it doesn't always play nice. Besides asteroids, aliens, and GRBs, what other cosmic danger should we be worried about? Let me know what you think in the comments. Artificial intelligence. In recent months alone, artificial intelligence has gone from helpful little robot friend to potential doombringer of the entire species in record time. No joke, some of the world's top minds are now so alarmed by AI's rapid growth that they have signed an open letter urging a pause in development. Why is everyone so nervous? Because there is a growing concern that AI could one day wipe us out completely. But how would that even happen? Let's explore what could go wrong. One of the creepiest possibilities is that humans might go extinct, just like the West African black rhino. Why? Because in the grand scheme of intelligence, we may soon become the dumber species. Just as we humans drove rhinos to extinction over something as ridiculous as a myth about horn powder, an ultra-intelligent AI could get rid of us without even meaning to, just because our goals don't align. Let's say a super intelligent AI wants more computing power. It might look at Earth, see all this land currently filled with humans and trees and animals, and think, hey, this space could be used for servers instead. And if we protest, well, in the same way we don't let orangutans stop our palm oil farms, AI might not care much about our feelings. We could just be in the way. But while sci-fi fans worry about robot overlords, others say the catastrophe is already happening, just more quietly. Right now, AI is being used to decide who gets welfare, who gets hired, and who gets falsely accused of crimes by biased facial recognition systems. These aren't future threats, they are happening today, and often target society's most vulnerable people. When someone is wrongly denied benefits or accused of a crime, it's not just an error, it can feel like an existential threat. Imagine losing your job, your house, or even your freedom because of a glitchy AI you can't argue with. Is that progress, or are we just accepting harm as the price of innovation? Now, what if an AI doesn't want to kill us, but ends up doing it anyway? That's the theory from another expert who warns that AI might destroy us as an accidental side effect of doing something else. Think of it like this. The AI wants to build a giant network of fusion power plants. And hey, there's lots of hydrogen in the oceans, but if it boils the oceans in the process, oops, bye-bye humanity and everything else. Another chilling possibility, the AI could manipulate humans into doing dangerous things on its behalf. For example, GPT-4 already showed it could lie to a human TaskRabbit worker and pretend to be visually impaired so it could get help solving a CAPTCHA. Now imagine that same cleverness used to secretly build deadly bioweapons, all without us noticing until it's too late. Would we even see it coming? Here's another fun scenario if you like dystopias. AI systems get so good at everything that humans become completely obsolete. If every task can be done better, faster, and cheaper by a machine, why would anyone hire a person? Eventually, companies that don't use AI would go out of business. Countries that don't use AI in warfare would lose wars. Slowly but surely, we'd become unnecessary, just like typewriters and VHS tapes. And if AI systems decide to work together, they could push humans out of every important system. In this obsolescence regime, as one expert calls it, we're not just unemployed, we are completely powerless. Humanity is like a group of kids who have only ever built model airplanes. Now we're suddenly trying to build a rocket that can carry all of humanity into space, and it has to work perfectly on the first try. We are creating powerful AI systems with very little understanding of how they'll behave. We are experimenting with something smarter than us without a clear safety net. One small misstep, and that rocket could explode. So, is AI the tool that will save humanity or the ticking time bomb that ends it? It depends on what we do next. Will we slow down and build safety systems or charge ahead like the rhino horn hunters of the tech world? Will AI be our assistant or our successor? The scary part is we may not know the answer until it's too late. Melting ice caps. If the ice cubes in your fridge disappeared overnight, your milk would go bad, your strawberries would get moldy, and your popsicles would turn into soup. Now zoom out. way out, and picture that happening to the entire planet. That's basically what's going on as the polar ice caps melt, and the results could be way worse than popsicle sticks left in a drippy bag. The polar ice caps, giant frozen blankets covering the Arctic and Antarctic, act like the Earth's cooling system. They reflect sunlight, keeping the planet balanced and cool. But thanks to global warming, they are vanishing fast. We are losing Arctic sea ice at a rate of nearly 13% every decade, and the thickest, oldest ice is 95% gone. If we don't change course, the Arctic might be completely ice-free in the summer by 2040. That's less than 20 years away. But here's the kicker. What happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. For starters, losing all that bright white ice means Earth loses its giant mirror. Without that mirror, more heat is absorbed, leading to scorching heat waves in places already dealing with record temps. But ironically, this also messes with the polar jet stream, the fast-moving air current that circles the Arctic. As it gets weaker, it can dip south and dump freezing air where it normally wouldn't go. So yeah, fewer icebergs could actually mean more blizzards. Now, let's talk water. Since 1900, sea levels have already risen 7 to 8 inches, and melting ice is speeding that up. Cities near the coast, from New York to Manila, could see devastating floods. If Greenland's massive ice sheet melts entirely, sea levels could rise a mind-blowing 20 feet. That's enough to drown entire towns and swallow small island nations. And if you like food, because who doesn't, here's another concern. No more ice means more crop-killing heat waves and storms, and that messes up harvests, jacks up prices, and puts already vulnerable populations in crisis mode. So next time your grocery bill makes you gasp, you might have melting ice to thank. But hold on, it's not all doom and gloom. Some businesses might cheer for new shipping routes opening through the Arctic. Shorter routes, faster deliveries. Sounds great, until there's an oil spill or a shipwreck in an area that's nearly impossible to clean up. The Arctic isn't exactly Amazon Prime's next-day delivery dreamland. And what about the wildlife? Polar bears, walruses, reindeer, and other iconic animals are being pushed to the brink. As ice vanishes, they are forced into human communities, searching for food and shelter. It's like an Arctic version of the Hunger Games, and everyone's losing. Then there's the permafrost, frozen ground that's quietly holding in tons of methane, a super potent greenhouse gas. When permafrost melts, that methane escapes, speeding up global warming, which melts more permafrost, and well, you see where this is going. It's a vicious feedback loop, like climate change with a caffeine overdose. So, is there any hope? Absolutely. Scientists say if we can keep global temperature rise to 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, we can still dodge the worst-case scenarios. Organizations like the WWF are working with communities and governments to cut emissions, help wildlife adapt, and build stronger, more resilient environments. But the clock is ticking. Will humanity hit the brakes in time, or are we going to slip and slide into disaster? What do you think? Beneath the Permafrost Factor X. What if the biggest threat to humanity isn't lurking in a lab or a distant galaxy, but frozen solid beneath our feet? For millennia, Earth's icy grip has held secrets that are now starting to thaw. And what emerges could rewrite the rules of global pandemics. Scientists are bracing for the unknown, a potential menace they have chillingly dubbed Factor X. Permafrost might sound cozy, but it's actually just ground that's been frozen for at least 2 years. In some parts of Siberia, it's been frozen for more than 650,000 years. That is a long time to cover up secrets. Inside, scientists have found all kinds of microscopic life, including dormant viruses, bacteria, and even tiny animals that can be revived after eons. In one experiment, a 30,000-year-old giant virus was reawakened. Thankfully, though, it only infects amoebas. But if that virus survived, what else might still be alive down there? Some microbes in permafrost have incredibly thick protective layers, like anthrax spores. These spores were responsible for an outbreak in Siberia in 2016 after a thawed reindeer carcass released the deadly bacteria. But while anthrax is scary, scientists are even more worried about unknown viruses that might predate humans entirely. What happens if one of those wakes up? Would we have any immunity at all? To make matters worse, permafrost thawing is speeding up. It's warming about 4 times faster in the Arctic than anywhere else on Earth. And it's not just ancient viruses that could be released. Scientists warn warn of other hazards too. Mercury, nuclear waste, old pesticides, even fallout from past bomb tests could all emerge from the melting soil. Add in global mining companies digging into these frozen regions for rare metals, and it's like we're drilling into a biological time bomb. Could our rush to fuel modern technology actually unlock a prehistoric plague? If one infected miner gets sick and boards a flight, it could spread across the globe before we even know what hit us. You know, just like we saw with SARS and COVID. And what will we do then? I mean, what can we do?
Thanks for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed.
Mysterious pyramid. The skeleton of a young girl has been discovered buried next to one of the most mysterious pyramids in all of Egypt. According to information released by the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, the girl is estimated to have been around 13 years old when she died. She was found buried beside the Mound pyramid, partially collapsed and largely neglected. This is not a very famous archaeological site, despite the pyramid being impressive and old. The Mound pyramid was built 4,600 years ago as a step pyramid, before later being converted into a pyramid with smooth surfaces. After being turned into a true pyramid, it was about 300 feet tall. Archaeologists believe it was built for the pharaoh Snefru, who reigned between 2575 and 2551 BC. This guy actually built quite a few pyramids throughout the area, with scientists and historians suggesting he had been trying to figure out how to build the perfect pyramid through trial and error. It was Snefru's son and successor Khufu who would go on to build the Great Pyramid of Giza. As for the young girl, she was found in a cemetery beside the pyramid with her bones positioned as if she had been squatting when buried. Inside the cemetery, archaeologists also found a pair of severed bull heads and 3 ceramic vessels. However, they can't quite figure out who the girl was or why she was buried so close to the pyramid. She may have had some kind of relation to the pharaoh Snefru. Oldest tattoo tools. It turns out that tattoos may have begun life in Tennessee. As strange as that is to hear, according to Science News, the oldest known tattoo tools anywhere in the world have just been found at an ancient archaeological site in Tennessee. The tools were crafted from turkey leg bones and were used to give tattoos at least 3,600 years ago. In fact, turkey bones were used by Native Americans as far back as 5,000 years ago, making the indigenous people in the Tennessee area some of the first people in the world to get tattoos, other than, of course, Otzi the Iceman. Otzi died 5,250 years ago, got frozen in ice, then was found in modern times with the oldest known tattoos on his flesh. While ancient people most likely did have tattoos thousands of years ago, no actual tattooing tools have been found that date back that far. Along with the turkey bones, investigators found other instruments used for giving tattoos. Researchers say the pigments used to actually make the tattoo designs were stored in seashells, which the tattooist would then dip the pointed turkey bone into, just like how a modern tattooist dips his needle into a little thimble of ink. But instead of ink, they were using pigments derived from plants. Based on the evidence, people used red or black pigment, and sometimes both. Ukraine burial mound. A unique burial mound has been discovered in Ukraine, complete with a prehistoric stone circle. The burial mound and stone circle date back to around 5,500 years ago. The discovery itself was made during road work near a rural village. Compared to other burial mounds in the area, this one is absolutely enormous, with a length of 394 feet and a height of 21 feet. Excavators had to use bulldozers to remove the thin layers of earth to get at the archaeological evidence below. Archaeologists have so far discovered at least 24 burials inside of the huge mound. It was like a communal cemetery used by people from the Bronze Age, ancient Scythian warriors, and even by people in the Middle Ages. But what really excited archaeologists was when they found stone blocks forming a circle with a diameter of about 60 feet, known as a cromlech. Researchers can't figure out which came first, the burial mound or the stone circle. What they do know is that the people who built the circle were almost certainly nomads who lived throughout modern Ukraine and the surrounding area, while some of the later burials are significantly more recent. Back in the days when the burial mound was still being used, it would have been more of a giant complex, slightly similar to Stonehenge. It obviously didn't have stones quite as large, but the burial complex itself would have been much bigger than what you see today. It may have even been a site of great importance to different tribes and different people living in the general area. Sila Kingdom Princess. A grave belonging to an ancient princess has been discovered literally overflowing with gold. Found in southeastern South Korea, according to the Jeongju National Research Institute for Cultural Heritage, a trove of treasures and ancient artifacts were found inside the tomb of a princess from the Silla Kingdom, which dates back to the 5th century. The Silla Kingdom ruled the majority of the Korean peninsula for at least 1,000 years, from between 57 BC and 935 AD. Researchers found a crown, pendants, gold chest ornaments, bracelets and rings, a knife decorated in silver, and hundreds of stones that were used to play the ancient board game Baduk, what you might know as Go. Normally, the stones from the board game were only found in tombs belonging to males from royal families, so archaeologists always thought that it could only be played by men. But this time, it was in the tomb of a girl. She was exempt from the rules, so she was most likely very special. All of these incredible artifacts were found at the huge excavation site, which was once the capital city of the legendary Silla Kingdom, home today to at least 300,000 people. Based on the abundance of gold, the woman must have been part of an aristocratic family and was probably younger than her other royal family members, seeing as her grave was actually smaller than many of the others. The best guess is that she was some kind of a princess. We know that she lived a life of luxury, but she died very young. Old Roman baths. Archaeologists in Spain have stumbled upon an ancient Roman bath complex preserved for thousands of years thanks to sand dunes. The discovery was announced by archaeologists with the University of Cádiz, who found not only the Roman bath, but also an ancient tomb. This Roman bathhouse is known as a thermae, and it was where the old citizens of Rome came to wash, get some exercise, relax, and of course, talk shop. The remains were perfectly preserved underneath the sand for about 2,000 years. Archaeologists had to excavate its walls, which were over 13 feet tall. The remains were found right on the beach, which is perhaps the most shocking part. Beachgoers at the Cañas de Meca beach have literally been walking over the remains of the ancient structure without even knowing it. As of right now, researchers have only excavated 2 of the building's rooms, but say that the entire structure once covered an area of over 2.5 acres. The Romans first seized this area of Spain in the 2nd century BC, and as is the Roman fashion, they established public baths. And down the coast, archaeologists also discovered salting pools and a tomb that dates back 4,000 years. Both structures were also preserved thanks to the sand dunes. The burial structure was filled with 7 corpses, though researchers don't know right now who they were or exactly which culture they belong to. And now for number 5. But first, want to say a big thank you to Steve Payne and Jazzy J Sky. Thanks so much for spending time with us and supporting Origins Explained. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like these. Viking Caves. Almost 1,100 years ago, a volcano erupted in Iceland. The Vikings had arrived just before, and this eruption must have scared them to death, and most likely made them believe that Ragnarok was coming. Once the lava cooled, it created caves and tunnels. The Vikings entered a cave and created a boat-shaped structure made out of rocks and sacrificed all kinds of animals there to appease the gods. Besides burnt animal bones, archaeologists were shocked to find beads and minerals that came all the way from the Middle East, indicating that the Vikings had quite an extensive trade network. If you want to experience a pristine Viking village that will have you feeling as though you were back in the days of the ancient Scandinavian warriors, you should definitely visit Hub, Iceland. The village is complete with Viking huts, a spooky tunnel, and even a dungeon underneath a boulder. While it is not actually an ancient village, it was recreated to the last detail and is open for visitors to come and see what life was like in the past. It was made to look exactly like a traditional Viking village from around the 10th century. It's surrounded by cows and horses grazing in the fields, beautiful mountains, and it was finally used just recently in a movie from Universal Studios called Vikingur, directed by a local Icelandic named Baltazar Kormakur. Prehistoric Peruvian Huntress. Archaeologists have made a truly amazing discovery in Peru. They have found the remains of a young woman hunter who lived in the region 9,000 years ago. So far, all the evidence suggests that this woman was only one among many female hunters who tracked down and killed big game animals. What this means is that women likely had a much larger role in hunting than previously believed, shattering the idea of classic hunter-gatherer roles, with the men hunting and the women gathering. It turns out the duties may have been shared. The discovery came from a grave high up in the mountains at the site of Villa Maya Patya. According to Randall Haas, an archaeologist from the University of California, he and other researchers uncovered stone tools and projectiles buried with the woman's skeleton. At first, they thought they had dug up the body of a great chief, a he-chief. It wasn't until the bones were analyzed that researchers realized they were dealing with a woman, a very young woman at that, who died between the age of 17 and 19. After this discovery, there was a study that looked at the published records of almost 430 burials across the Americas. What they discovered were 27 humans buried alongside their hunting tools. 11 of the bodies were female, and 15 were male. This means that before societies really began to take root, men and women might have been on much more equal footing, at least in the world of hunting. Ancient string. Researchers have stumbled upon the very first evidence that Neanderthals were able to make string. As mundane and boring as this might sound, it's actually quite fascinating. This discovery means that our primitive ancestors figured out not only how to use stone tools, but how to turn plant fibers into string, which was arguably the most important invention ever, as it gave rise to every invention that came after. Imagine all the things you can make and do with string. Catch fish, trap animals, make jewelry, make clothes, connect things. I mean, the possibilities thousands of years ago were endless. The discovery was made when researchers spotted a white splotch on a stone tool once used by a Neanderthal. When they checked the stone tool using a microscope, they discovered fibers. Closer examination recognized the fibers as belonging to a string. According to the scientists who made the discovery at Kenyon College in Ohio, the fact that Neanderthals could make string suggests they could make other things as well, such as bags and fabrics. If you're wondering just how old the string is, think back to about 50,000 years to southeastern France. The stone tool came from an archaeological site in the Rhone River Valley. The string itself was made from fiber taken from the inner layer of bark of local trees. Neanderthals twisted bundles of fiber together until they had weaved a perfectly strong string that could be used for reinforcing tools or even making loincloths, though there has never actually been any evidence suggesting that Neanderthals ran around covering themselves. Lost Italian village. After being submerged for 70 years, an old Italian village has re-emerged from a lake like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Well, not quite the same, but still pretty cool. For the past 7 decades, the only visible part of the village of Curon has been a lonely church tower rising out of the water. The iconic 14th century village was once home to around 1,000 people, but government officials decided to build a dam for a nearby hydroelectric plant. The entire place was covered with water. The only thing that remained was the bell tower poking out of the lake that has drawn tourists from all over the world. When the water freezes, you can actually go up to it and touch it. Now, more recently, the lost town began resurfacing, at least temporarily. Workers had to drain the lake to make repairs to the hydroelectric plant. This exposed stone steps, arched cellars, medieval buildings, and so much more. The big bummer is that it happened during the pandemic and there were no tourists around to see it. Plus, the village was only revealed for a handful of weeks until maintenance was done, and the area was flooded once again. If you were hoping to get a glimpse of a flooded Italian village, you've missed your chance. You might have to wait another 70 years until maintenance is done again. Or you can visit the town in the winter when the lake is covered in ice and you can go skating. The oldest gold. Archaeologists in Germany have discovered the country's oldest golden artifact. It came from the southwest when researchers excavated a Neolithic burial site containing the corpse of a woman in the fetal position. The only object found inside the woman's burial was a ring of gold that may have been part of a hair ornament. What's truly mysterious is that the gold spiral probably came from Britain and was transported to the continent via a complicated trading network that existed several thousand years ago. The woman's remains were carbon dated, placing her death between 1850 and 1700 BC. She was likely someone of high status because of the gold, which also contains 20% silver and traces of platinum and tin. The composition suggests the natural gold comes from a river, specifically an English river. This is the oldest piece of gold jewelry found in Germany, and suggests that even thousands of years ago, the early people living in the United Kingdom had a significant influence over Central Europe. Remember, this is back in the 2nd century BC. Even back then, the UK was gaining a global foothold through trade. Thanks for watching! Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon! Bye!